How's it going? Thanks for joining us. We will get started here in just a second, but while we're waiting for people to kind of trickle in, let's just overview kind of what I want to talk about today in today's live stream. So one of the parts of character animation is designing your characters for animation, and there's a couple areas that I want to go over today when looking at character artwork or deciding on a character artwork style and all the different things that have to go into that decision to be able to rig that character design efficiently so that you're not constantly dealing with things breaking, joints not aligning, or the hips not really, the hips of the character not really bending correctly and all that kind of stuff. And then there's also a lot of other challenges that come along with just different styles of artwork. One of the big things is having outlines with your character. How do you... It's one thing to rig up a character artwork that's just solid colors, solid shapes. But then when you start having outlines, that throws a little bit of complications into the mix. And to demonstrate what we're doing today, I'm actually going to just be walking through a current project I'm working on, because in this project I'm handling all the character animation, and me and my partner, the other guy that I'm working with, he's going to handle the bulk of the animation, and then I'm going to insert the characters into the scenes that he's going to set up. And so we've been going back and forth on, the style of character artwork that we want to go with. And so I'm going to kind of go through how we kind of came to what we decided on, because we've kind of decided on a style. And so, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna just walk you through it, and then once I've done that, we're just gonna start building the character. I'm actually gonna do some of the work. Some of the prep work for this project. I'm just gonna do it live with you guys. So we're gonna take the kind of character designs that we've decided on, and I'm going to just show you in real time how I kind of approach creating the character rigs based on that character artwork. So hopefully through that whole process, it'll be kind of educational for you guys. Before we get started, though, let's just have everybody in the chat just say where you're joining from. Always fun to know all the different places that people are joining from. And let's do that, because I just have one last thing I need to set up before we get started. I forgot to set this little thing up before I went live. And thank you to those of you who stick through that little intro animation, the countdown timer. I just have that up there because I like to have that little buffer time before I go live to just make sure that everything's working correctly, because I've had a couple of times here where I switch scenes and then the audio cuts out and whatnot. So I really appreciate that. So again, if you're just trickling in, let us know where you're joining from. We're going to go over how I approach character design for the purpose of rigging it up and animating it in After Effects. AC is joining from Los Angeles. Welcome. We got...
I found some web results. I can show them if you ask again from your iPhone.
Hey Siri, be quiet. Sorry.
There's nothing to stop here.
I don't know what Siri just heard, but she just started talking behind me. I don't know if you guys heard that, but we got somebody joining from Istanbul. Welcome. So I think the other thing too is I'll just get out some of the little business items. I think I'm still trying to figure out the best time to live stream, and for now I think we're gonna do it Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. And I think I'm gonna start posting tutorials in between each live stream every other week. So that's kind of the schedule going forward here. Good evening, good evening. Welcome, welcome. Trickle in, trickle in. Great to be here. Great to have you. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Herman, joining from Ukraine. I hope you're safe and, you know, not in harm's way. Being from Ukraine is not, it's kind of a scary place to be this right now, Ukraine. But I'm glad you're able to join us. Hopefully, I'm hoping that everybody joining is going to learn something new. So, how many of you guys struggle with the character design process? It's kind of the beginning process. It's an important part of character animation. You got to know how to design your characters. So I'm wondering if that is something that people struggle with like I did in the beginning. I remember when I was first picking up character rigging, and I was, you know, I was watching. I took a course from School of Motion and all this stuff, and I'm watching bunch of tutorials, and I'm learning how to use Duik, and it's complicated and it's hard, and I'm like you know, there's so many different steps, and a lot, you know, later I come to find out like it's not as technical as I thought it was, but like you know, whatever. Duik is just not very approachable. So, and I remember thinking like, man, nobody goes over like how to like, what if I want my elbow to be like a square? You know, what if I don't want a round joint? You know, because I'm thinking I'm trying to do a bunch of character artwork that is different, and you know, some character artwork has like straight joints, some have rounded joints, and nobody really covers this kind of stuff. And the thing is nobody really does cover like the prep process, because, well, not everybody, but a lot of people who are doing these like Duik tutorials, at least 2 or 3 years ago, they, you know, they start the tutorial with their character already in the composition, and then they're just like, okay, this is how you rig this character up. But it's like, but what is your character, what attributes does your character need? How is it broken up and stuff like that? So, but this video, we're not going to just talk about how to rig a character. We're going to go through the whole process of concepting character artwork, looking at different examples of character artwork, identifying the unique issues that each style of character artwork will present you when you go to rig it, how to decide which tool to use to rig the character artwork, and then once we get to that point, I'll just show you how I did it for this particular project. And then as we move into it, I'm just going to start working on this project with you guys. We're going to take this character artwork and we're going to start rigging it up, building out the character rig for this project that I'm currently working on, because this project involves a bunch of character animations that will probably all need to be the same character. So I need to build this rig out so that I can have this character do a bunch of different animations that I have planned for this project. So the preliminary work we're going to be doing in this video is actually for a real project I'm working on right now. So you guys can see I'm not just building this character rig for a tutorial. I'm building it for an actual client and yada, yada, yada. So hopefully in that process, there's going to be a few things that when I'm doing this kind of stuff, I'm always like, oh, that'd be a great thing to share with people. But then when I'm building a character for, you know, a tutorial, I sometimes skip over those things because I think I don't want to get too convoluted in my explanation. So yeah. Anyway. Okay, Bezoa has been participating like a madman in the chat, and I appreciate that a lot. Let me catch up on some of these chat messages. Really been waiting for you to make a video like this. I feel so creatively inept sometimes, so don't we all, right? I go for 2D, 2.5D. Nice. Alpha Audio Visual, welcome. Welcome. Joining from Brazil. Good to have you here. Good to have you. AC asks, do your clients sign off on your characters? Yes, most of the time they've got to sign off on the character design because sometimes it's got to match their brand. And some clients are going to have a brand guide if it's a bigger company. You know, they're going to have a brand guide, and a lot of times those brand guides are going to have kind of illustrations in them that it's got to match. Those are nice sometimes because you're like, there's my character design. Sometimes it's not so nice because it's either the character designs that they have are really complicated, so they're hard to rig up. They have a lot of issues when it comes to rigging in After Effects. Or they don't have anything and you've got to kind of develop a style for them because I've never done a video like this. I had a client like that where they're a fairly new company. They were actually kind of like a splinter company off of another company. So they had, a whole brand guide. They weren't like a startup or anything, but they hadn't done any kind of video like this, and they wanted some 1-minute Facebook videos that they're going to post on their Facebook page, and I guess use as Facebook ads. I guess, I don't know, and they needed to come up with a character style, and we ended up going with really flat, no outlines, just solid colors for the character designs. Juan Gambino joining from Italy. Gonna try to stay awake. Yeah, Juan, sorry to do this in the evening, but I typically find that more people are able to join at this time. So, Herman says, I like the interior of your apartment. This is actually my home. This is my office. This is actually, oddly enough, the master bedroom of this particular house. And I've converted it into my office, and I painted this wall an accent color. Eventually I want to get like my logo as a neon sign, maybe hang it right here, get some shelves and hang some stuff. Right now to just have a little couch that clients can sit on, and then I've got a little desk back there that I can use for, I don't know, drawing or sketching or whatever, but I end up most of the time just staying at my computer desk here. And actually the way I have this set up is like not really ideal for this room because the door is right here, right off camera. And, but it's the best looking for this camera setup, looking this way. Abu, it's 2:35 a.m. here in Dubai. What are you doing up, man? You're a night owl, I guess. Yeah, some LED lights. Yeah, something like that. I don't want to go too crazy with the LED lights because I don't, I'm not a gamer. I feel like that look is kind of played out. But I do think it'd be really cool if I had my logo as like a little neon sign here in the background. I'm actually currently in the process of getting a logo and brand guide put together for Keyframe Academy. We're going to make it official. We're redesigning the website, and there's lots of updates. We're increasing the cadence of new videos coming out on the channel, so we're doing a lot of work for Keyframe Academy. So if you're not subscribed, make sure you're subscribed, and also hit the like button on this video so it shows up in the algorithm. We can get more viewers in here. We're about ready to start here in a moment. Just waiting for a few more people to trickle in, and if you're just joining, let us know where you're joining from and what your favorite dessert is. Just kidding. You don't have to tell me your favorite dessert, but. And Bazoa, you're becoming my favorite person because you're being very, you're participating in the chat, which I like. That's really the goal of doing these live streams versus just a tutorial, although I do like the tutorial and I think they serve their purposes. But with the live stream, I like the live interaction and I like the questions that you guys ask, because you always ask common question or good questions, and it gets me thinking about, you know, why do I do stuff like that? So it's all good. It's all good. .636 in Atlanta. Welcome, welcome. Herman has become a member. Herman, I want you to know that you are the channel's first member. And I really appreciate that. You should now get a little icon next to your name when you type in the chat, when you comment on stuff. Right now, I do have memberships set up. They're just $1 a month. At the moment, you don't get any exclusive content, but you are supporting the channel. And if enough people join as members, I will start coming up with exclusive content. I want to start Cinema 4D. Any best courses available? Grayscale Gorilla. Go look at grayscalegorilla.com. I think gray is spelled G-R-E-A-Y, not G-R-A-Y. Grayscale Gorilla, that's where I would go if I wanted to learn more about Cinema 4D. That's where I have gone to learn about Cinema 4D. So if that's more your thing, that's a great resource to go look. There's also School of Motion and Motion Design School have some courses on Cinema 4D. So it's a pretty common 3D package. Although right now I am mostly interested in Blender when it comes to 3D. All right, shall we get started? Again, thanks everybody for joining. Let's get started. So let me just take you through the process. Well, let me just introduce you to the project. I'm not going to reveal the company I'm doing this for, and I can't show you any of the branding guide because I don't know. I don't have permission from them to show any of this stuff. So the stuff that I'm going to show today is just kind of the concepting phase. I'm not integrating their brand into the look yet, but we are kind of, we're picking a style that we think will match the branding and we can integrate into the branding. The video that we're doing, I think, is kind of like an internal explainer video. And I'm not really going to go into what it's about because it's honestly not that interesting, and you know, it's not really important for educational purposes for this video. But basically we have about a 2 to 3 minute explainer video that's going to involve some character animations. So my goal by the end of, well, my goal, what I need to do right now to prepare for this, because the process that I'm going to be doing with my buddy, he's going to create the backgrounds and the transitions and any animation that's not character animation. So sometimes it's going to be objects and illustrations and stuff like that. He's going to animate all that stuff, and then I'm going to take care of just the character animations. And we have gone, him and I have gone back and forth, and we've talked about different character styles that we want to do. So I want to show you some of the styles that we considered and then the style that we kind of ended on. And then we're going to take that style today and we're going to start to like put it together as a character rig, kind of prototype it so I can send it off to him and say, hey, what do you think? Does this look good? Do you think this is going to work for the video? So I might even do a little bit of a simple animation just to show him A, how the characters look, and B, how they look in motion. And then it helps me to know, you know, any adjustments. Is this realistic? Is this kind of rigging going to be economical for the budget that this client has? You know, that's another thing you have to consider when putting together a character rig for a client is obviously simpler artwork is going to be quicker to rig and animate, and so therefore clients with smaller budgets, that's might be what you want to go for, versus if a client has a large budget, I'm talking like in the tens of thousands of dollars, you may be able to go with a little bit more of a detailed character rig with a lot of lines and details on the character, because you can spend the time to really fidget with all that stuff. This client kind of has a lower budget, so we did end up going with a little bit more of a simpler character design. What do you suggest, Cinema 4D or Blender? Well, it just depends on what you want to do with 3D. Do you want to do motion graphics? Cinema 4D is kind of the go-to tool for motion graphics. Although Blender, for all intents and purposes, could probably do a lot of the same things that Cinema 4D does. The communities for both, in terms of motion graphics, like the motion graphics community for Cinema 4D is going to be probably larger than Blender, because that's kind of Cinema 4D's niche, although they are expanding into other areas. But in 3D in general, I think the Blender community right now is exploding. Plus, Blender's free. So, you know, Cinema 4D is pretty expensive. If you have the money for Cinema 4D, go for it. If you don't, go for Blender, because I also think that the motion graphics community for Blender is exploding as well. There's so much out there to help you learn Blender because it is free, so the barrier of entry is a lot lower. And the newer versions of Blender, like the first time I ever downloaded and tried to open Blender, Blender was hard to use. It was unlike any other 3D program I'd ever used. It was like hard to just create a cube. But the most recent versions of Blender have overhauled the UI and the workflow, and they've made it a lot more similar to other 3D programs, much more intuitive, and so you can do a lot of really cool stuff with Blender. All right, so I'm going to jump over to my browser, and we're going to take a look at some character artwork that we decided, because of the budget for this particular project, we're just going to use character artwork from Envato as a starting point, which is quite honestly totally fine to do in your own projects. I've worked on many different marketing teams with graphic designers, and you guys would be surprised at how often graphic designers, when you know they get a project to start designing for something, they're just going to Shutterstock and pulling off pre-made templates and just kind of modifying those, putting different parts from one and the other, and just putting it together to meet the needs of whatever project they're working on. So it's totally fine to use stuff from Envato Elements or Shutterstock or whatever service as a starting point for what you're trying to work on. So this is like kind of one of the examples of character artwork that we were thinking kind of matches the brand of this particular company. One thing I do not like about this is I do not like whatever's going on right here. I don't know what's going on right there, but that's not a good design choice. But that's okay, because I can always, you know, I can fix that myself if I go in and make my own character designs. As you can see, it's fairly simple, very minimal outlines, only outlined on areas where the layer, like the arm, needs to be kind of stand out from the body. And so since the sleeve and the body are the same color, they've outlined the arm. Same over here with the yellow. So this is another example. This comes with a bunch of these other illustrations. And by the way, you can get all this on Envato Elements for, I think the best way you can do Envato Elements is pay for a year, and it's basically equals to be about $16 a month. And it's got tons of assets. It's got graphics, templates, sound effects, music. I use the music all the time in my YouTube videos. Video templates. They have like After Effects templates here, and I've used a lot of their. I think am I signed in? I need to sign in here. I have a collection of phone mock-up graphic templates that I've used in a lot of. It's not gonna let me sign in. Whatever. But anyway, they have a bunch of After Effects templates. They even have like character animation templates that you can download and take a look at. And when you subscribe to Envato Elements, you get all of this stuff for one price. You don't have to pay for individual assets. There's a lot of good stuff. Now, I will admit, Envato, sometimes I do wish that their bar of quality was set a little bit higher, because you do oftentimes have to sift through a lot of subpar assets, subpar graphics to find gems, but you can find pretty good stuff. So this was another example of something that we were looking at. Pretty simple again, thin lines, no outlines everywhere, just where it makes sense to kind of accent certain things. I really like this illustration. Anytime I see an illustration like this and I can already see like little moments or animations that I would do, is a good sign. Like obviously I'd have to, if I downloaded this file, it's just going to be all a bunch of different layers. So there's going to be a lot of retrofitting this to be animated, but it's a good starting point. I mean, it's just like this pose is really dynamic because the body is turning towards her, whereas the legs are kind of facing towards the audience. Just cool dynamic things like that I really like. So this was one of the artworks that we really were intrigued by. The only thing is there's a little bit too much outlines here, and it's just not going to quite work with the brand. The brand style for this current project is very flat, geometric shapes. So one of these styles that we considered is, if you guys know Emma Colombo, he has a lot of, his style is kind of like very geometric shapes, his character animations, very non-traditional. He's not trying to mimic characters like this. He just makes, he's using squares and circles and ovals and stuff like that to create his characters. We considered a style along those lines. Let me see if I have that somewhere over here. Yeah, so this was kind of something that we considered because of the geometric shapes of this brand style. Yeah, it's fun. I think we ended up not going with this because this particular piece talks a little bit about, having empathy for other people and understanding your own emotions, and without the facial features, we decided it might be a little harder to express emotion in the way that the script called for. But yeah, this is something that we considered, this kind of style. I think that this would be fun to do for another project, or just for fun, just to experiment about the relationship between the body shape and the outlined arms and stuff like that. It could be fun. Here's another style that we considered. Again, it's really like simple. It's really simple. This was a style that we didn't really consider. It's a little too simple for our liking. Again, pretty simple character artwork here. Oh, this is the kind of stuff that I love. I love this because this is another illustration where I see this and I go, I could see how this animation would go, like she's typing on the calculator, she hits equals, something happens, and then she spreads her arms with joy, stuff like that. So artwork like this I always love just because of the style, and I love anytime I can bring an element of lighting into the artwork. So I love these little shadows. I just like this style of artwork. Unfortunately for this project, it's not going to match the brand at all. just the cartoon style of this is just not going to work. But I just wanted to show this one because I love this kind of art style. Okay, so I think the two winners, I may not even have the one we ended up going with. Okay, let's go with, I think it was this one, but it was this guy. Okay, so this is the style that we ended up deciding on. And this is the style in which I'm going to build off of today. I've already downloaded this project file, but it's still pretty simple. Got some outlines, but then, like, you know, it's got the shirt isn't outlined, so it's got solid blocks of color, which because the style of the brand that we're working with is so flat, we think that this will work. But again, I'm going to just kind of pull together a character rig, maybe add some animation to it, and then send it off to my buddy and see, hey, do you think this is going to fit? We may do all that and realize this particular artwork doesn't really work for what we're trying to do. And we might go back to our other one, which was this. Again, lines, solid shapes. The face is a little bit more relatable, I think, than this one. So that might become an issue, although I can always add like pupils in here. Because I don't think, well, some of the characters do have pupils, but yeah, it was between these two. So this is the one we're going to be working with today. All right, we got some comments. Herman with his little icon next to his name because he just joined as a member. Do you use graphic tablet at work? I use an iPad. I don't really use a graphics tablet to work on my computer. But anytime I need to do some quick sketching in like Procreate, I'll use my iPad. Abu says, don't you think using Envato sometimes makes it hard as you need to mix different character styles? Maybe. The thing is I usually use Envato as just a starting point, right? I'm not necessarily just using their character rigs. I'm kind of just using it as inspiration or as a reference for creating my own characters. And you'll kind of see what I mean here in a little bit, but I mean, there's some things like I could take a lot of this lady right here. I could take a lot of what is already here and kind of build out the rest of the character artwork. But yeah, so I don't really find that I'm mixing different character artworks, especially since like the other thing too is you'll see there's all these similar graphics. I can download all of these and mix and match from them, and they're all kind of in the same style. This one might be a little bit of a different style, but certainly this and this and this, they're all kind of in the same style. Maybe not that one, but these two for sure are in the same style. And then I can go, you know, see more and see if there's any other in this kind of style. It looks like this style is a little bit different, but you know, we got these, and even though that these are a little bit different, I could adapt them to work with this. So there's usually a lot of assets you can choose from. I'm not seeing any other ones. I could also go back and I could go to more from this particular and again, you're usually using Envato too when you don't have a budget for, you know, designing completely unique characters. If you're working for a big corporation and you have a big budget, man, I would pay an illustrator to make me some unique character artwork for the animations. But when my budget's small and I don't have time to do that, I'm probably using assets from Envato as a starting point. Anyway, so that's, oh, I just wanted to look at these. some fun little illustrations inside this. See, even this, like this little girl right here. Let's see if I can zoom in. Yikes. This little illustration right here. Right here. Like that's kind of the same style. So I could even download this and steal that as a reference. Anyway. So that's why it's important to kind of decide on what the style is you're going for, and then, you know. So you say the strokes are kind of thick, though. They're thick. Yeah, but strokes are easy to, you know, for this style, right? Like the strokes are thick, but I can always thin them out, and I don't think that, you know, it really bothers the integrity of the style. In fact, it may even work better with what we're trying to do. And I could even remove some strokes from some areas that I don't think are necessary. So, yeah. Oh, this is in response to our new illustrations becoming obese. It does certainly seem that way. I think it's just, yeah, it's a trend. It's a trend right now. All right, let's jump into Illustrator. Okay, so here's a little illustration, one of the illustrations from this little document. So this is what you get when you download it from Envato. Yikes, I don't know why this background. Now, I will tell you right now, a lot of times when you download these files, they are kind of meant to just like drag and drop into, you know, like a website or something. So the way that they're designed is not conducive to After Effects. And I'll show you what I mean. If I just copy this guy, and I'm just going to delete her. The strokes are all like outlined. It does look like I do have a stroke in the middle of this though. Oh, no, I don't. Well, I do actually. I have this shape, so I could just do this. I could just change the stroke to black. I don't know why there we go. I don't like it when they outline the stroke and turn it into an actual shape instead of a stroke. That makes it really hard for us animators to bring over to After Effects. So I would just delete that, and then I can just increase the stroke size. Luckily, their outlines, which were they outlined the stroke, and then the fill were separate shapes. So I was able just to delete that outline and do that. Probably won't do that for everything, especially for this leg, because I'm actually going to recreate the leg in After Effects with Limber instead of in Illustrator. But I just wanted to illustrate to you guys that sometimes the artwork that you download, not optimized for character animation. That's why you got to know how to use Illustrator so that you can retrofit your character artwork for Illustrator. So to get started, I want to get your guys' opinion on which of these characters I should work on in creating as a character rig. So I have a few ideas on which ones I want to work on. We have this guy. We have this girl that I use in the thumbnail. And I guess we could do this girl. Oh, you know what? I like this girl. Look how ginormous her hands are. What do you guys think? Fourth row, third from the right. Let me see what you're talking about here. Fourth row, third from the right. This one? With the magnifying glass? Let me know. See, this is what I mean. Like, see how she doesn't have eyes? I could literally just say, oh, you know what? I'm going to take these eyes. Use those. Because everybody else has eyes. They're all slightly different. Fourth from the right. Oh, so this guy. All right, so that's one of the options. Okay. So, everybody who's viewing, all 16 of you, let me know. We got option 1. Two, 3. Which one should I work on for my rig? The one with the binocular looks good too. This one? Is that what you mean by binocular? Or is there somebody with actual binoculars, not a telescope? I think you mean that one. Okay, we got option 3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 3, 3 or 2. So we got, how many votes we got so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So half of you guys have voted. So if you just popped in, we've got these 3 options, and I'm taking votes on which one of these characters should we use as our kind of proof of concept. We're going to build it out as a character design. Mariah, is rigging a sitting character different from standing? That depends. That depends. If you need to animate a character that goes from sitting to standing or vice versa, then you need to rig the whole character. But if your character's sitting the whole time, you don't need to rig the whole leg. You don't need to go through the whole process of rigging because your character's not going to stand up. But it's all about what kind of animation you're going to do. And that's why planning out the kind of animation you do is important. Osmotion. Ooh, I like that name, by the way. Yeah, the skateboarding one has been done a lot. We're not necessarily going to animate him skateboarding, but he's just a different character design that we'll work off of. So just keep that in mind. But that's a good point. Actually, you know, it's funny. I'm actually working on an animation right now of somebody in this pose. In this pose. Kind of funny. Maybe I should show you guys. It's not done yet, though. I actually do want to show you. Let me open it. Okay, let's see if this will work. Let me RAM preview it, and then I'll bring it up. This is actually a good. I'm going to show an animation I'm working on right now that's not for this project. But I think it's going to be a fun animation in the end. And this is the other way I work, where I just start working on an animation without a style in mind. And I try. Sometimes I'm just like, I just want to work on the animation. I don't want to worry about what it looks like, what kind of style I'm using. And so I kind of have to pigeonhole the style in later. Not the most effective way to work, but all right, let's jump over to After Effects, because I was just saying that I'm currently working on somebody in this kind of pose a little bit. So I just wanted to show you guys this one. Just a second, let me get rid of this chat box. Okay, check this out. There's no head. Obviously, there'd be a head, and they're kind of floating, and there'll be something in the middle here that they're, you know, obviously floating thing. I don't have a hand for this part yet, but you know, they're kind of like floating and like making this object float in front of them. But again, like, these colors are atrocious. I haven't really looked, I mean, I haven't really worked on the style of this, the artwork style. I just wanted to get all the components. I may even start from, once I find the style, I might even start from ground zero and redo the animation in the style if it proves to be too difficult to like retrofit this. So this has been a fun one. Doctor Strange, you know, it's funny you say that, because that was exactly the kind of, like, when he's like, I don't know if you guys have seen the new Spider-Man, when he's doing his thing with that little box thing, his spell to make people forget who, well, I guess I shouldn't spoil it. And if you haven't seen it by now, like, what are you doing with your life? But he's doing that, and the way that he's, you know, kind of containing the spell, that was kind of my inspiration for this, for the arm movement here. But, and I want to add some like actual movement in the fingers. Some movement in the fingers here. So he's kind of like going like this. So yeah, I don't. That's a cool idea. I don't know why the chat's not pulling up. Do I have the chat on this? Oh, you know what? I don't have the chat bubble on this scene. Okay, let's try this again. Sorry, guys. Always trying to. Yeah, I don't want to disrespect anybody's religion or anything, so I probably won't do that. But the whole idea behind this animation is that you're kind of mastering this object in the middle. And I might do something fun, like put a keyframe in the middle, so it's like this like 3D keyframe that's rotating and it's kind of glowing and stuff like that. It's just kind of that's what I'm doing. What plugin or rigging are you using? I'm using Limber, baby. Limber all the ways. Yeah, I put him. Well, it's gonna be whitey tidies, but yeah, and the legs are gonna be hairy in the end, and the hairs are all gonna be kind of like wiggling, because you know, the little breeze that's blowing his cape up. He's gonna have a hood, and then I've got to figure out what I'm gonna do for the sleeves. Not that I know of. I'll tell you that it's made of the wave warp effect and several different pre-comps. And then these little guys right here are pins that I've made with the puppet pin tool, and then I've used Duik to create these little controller layers. That it's just easier for me to animate that way. But it's a fun little animation, right? We're not gonna quite do this today, but hold on to your butts. Welcome back. You have the same pair of undies. Does yours have skid marks too? Because these undies have skid marks. You just can't see them because they're on the other side, but. Thanks. Yeah, you'd be surprised how much time I spent trying to figure out how to do this. One thing that I have not been able to figure out how to do efficiently in After Effects is how to animate a wave motion with a path. I'm using the wave warp effect for this, but I'm trying to figure that out. I don't quite know how to do it yet, but. Yeah, that's my whole thing is I love to incorporate these 2.5D animations. And I guess this is as good a time as any to plug my character rigging and animation course that I'm currently working on that you can pre-order now if you go to keyframeacademy.com/character-pre-order, or there's a link in the description. The course is not out yet, but you can pre-order it now for a discounted price. But this is the kind of thing I'm going to teach you how my approach to creating these kind of animations to try to break out of the kind of 2D, really stiff mechanical animation that seems to be really common with After Effects. So if you're interested in checking that course out, link in the description. If you're not ready to pre-order it, you want more information, totally okay. I understand. There is a link on that website to just give me your email and I will let you know when the full course is out. For those who have pre-ordered, we're going to start trickling out the course in about the middle of May. It's going to be divided up into like chapters, and each chapter is going to cover a different concept and have a couple different videos that make up that chapter. So we're going to start releasing those chapters on a weekly basis starting in the middle of May. Yes, and I'm highlighting this comment because I love Limber. If you want to check out Limber, link in the description. There's a free trial. You can go download it, play around with it. Or Limber actually has a free version that's Limber Lite, and it's kind of like Rubber Hose or DK Tool in terms of how it creates your limb. So go check that out if you want to get your scratch your itch on Limber. For this kind of animation where we're doing some foreshortening in the arms as they kind of rotate, you know, if I rotate my arm right now and I bring it like this, you know, like you can't really even see my forearm behind my hand. Let me go to the main window so you guys can see me. I mean, this is what foreshortening is called. Like my forearm's right here, you can't even see it, but as I bring it up here, now you can see my forearm. So bringing that concept into 2D animation in After Effects is something that you can only do with Limber, hands down. You just can't do it with anything else. You can't do it with you can't do it with Duik, you can't do it with DK Tool, you can't do it with Rubber Hose, but you can do it with Limber. And it's funny, when I first found Limber, I was looking for a tool that just allowed me to do tapered limbs, because I had Rubber Hose, but the way that Rubber Hose does tapered limbs, at least back then, this was before tapering strokes was a thing in After Effects, is Limber would draw two paths. And anyway, I mean, I'm talking about Rubber Hose. Rubber Hose, the way they did tapered limbs just wasn't ideal. So I found Limber, and I was like, awesome. I can do tapered limbs. And then I also found out it has ways you can do like foreshortening. So, but let's get back to that After Effects. So, all right, let's catch up on some. Okay, this is a good question. Is Limber included in the course? And the answer is yes. You will get a temporary full license for the duration of the course so that you have ample opportunity to use Limber, learn Limber, and then once that temporary license is up, you can either decide to purchase Limber to use, or I'm also going to be using Duic, so but not for character rigging. But we will be using Duic and some of its other tools and things in the course. So you're going to learn a lot about how to use Duic and Limber in kind of combination with each other. So yes, awesome question. I forgot to mention that Limber is included in the course. You're pretty close to what I did in terms of the matte thing. This shape right here, where it kind of comes up and there's this little point right here, and then it comes off. I'm using, that's actually a matte to create the front of this cape, and then the shape behind it is a separate, actually I can just jump into it with you guys. Is it this one? Yeah. Okay, so this is it without the puppet pins. This is what it looks like. And then, and excuse that I'm not naming my compositions. I'm a bad boy. So this is basically the same thing, just duplicated and reflected. And then here you go. I'm using this as a mat to cut out this. Let me just so this is what it looks like. It's really just that. And then I'm just setting it to a mat, oops, inverted, using this as the mat to cut it out. That gives me this shape. And then again, I'm just duplicating that, putting it on either side, putting that in its own composition, bringing it in here, parenting it to the null that is driving the up and down animation of my character. Then I add pin tools to kind of make the ends of the cape go up and down, slightly delayed from the character going up and down. It's called overlapping action, baby. So that's basically it. I didn't actually intend to go over this animation today, but it's kind of a fun animation. Steve, welcome to the channel, first of all, and I appreciate your kind words. I don't have any tutorials on making backgrounds for this type of style. What specifically would you want to know in a tutorial like that? Like, what are your pain points when creating backgrounds? If you can leave those either as a comment on this video or in the chat, but preferably a comment, because sometimes I can't go back and look at the chat, that'd be very helpful, because I'm always looking for topics for future videos. I don't have a discount code, but I do have a link in the description, and I would appreciate if you use that link, because I do get a small little teeny tiny little bit of affiliate payback, little cheddar. I actually don't even know how much money I get. I just, at the end of the month, I get a cumulative amount, but I do get a little teeny tiny bit because I am an affiliate for Limber. But I used Limber way before I became an affiliate because I just love it so much. Does Limber play well with Lodi body movement exports? I know it. I don't know. Go check out animatable.co. That's the website for Limber. They have all the information about Limber. I think it does, but I'm not sure. So go check that out and see if that's the case. I wish I knew the answer. I don't do a lot of exporting animations for apps, stuff like that, so I wouldn't know. But use a feather mask in the composition options of the effects to keep the middle from moving. I'm not entirely sure what you mean there. All right. Okay, so this is a fun little animation. I don't have the other hand. I did have it. It kind of broke, so I just turned it off to show you guys. But it does look pretty cool because the character's going like this, you know. It's fun. It's really fun. So again, character animation course. This is the kind of stuff that you're going to learn how to approach an animation like this. So go check that out. Keyframeacademy.com/character-preorder. And if you're not ready to pre-order it, although this is the best time to pre-order it because this is the cheapest you're going to be able to get it, make sure to leave me your email. There's a little link below the purchase button where you can leave me your email and I'll let you know when the full course is out. That way you can look at everything, you can dig in, and you can decide whether or not you're going to purchase, whether or not you want to purchase it, whether or not it's teaching you the things you want to learn. I obviously don't want to make a course that nobody wants to take. So I've already had quite a few people pre-order the course and given me feedback on the things that they struggle with character animation. So I really do think that the curriculum of this course is going to turn out to be really good. And I'm going to hit on a lot of the issues that people often find they struggle with when trying to learn character animation, trying to perfect character animation. This kind of stuff, like, you just have to know that I'm passionate about character animation in After Effects. This guy, I'm just doing for fun. This is the stuff I do when I don't have a project from a client. I just make little animations that I have in my head. And so, and I'm always looking for ways to do new things. So, yeah, I'm really excited about the course anyway. But I get it. I get if you're not ready to pre-order it. Okay, so let's jump back to Illustrator because I forgot to count up the the votes on which one of these characters we're gonna do. So let me go back up the chat and okay, so we got, I'm gonna write this down. Keep track of this. I should have had a poll set up so that I could just look at the poll, but okay. So we have 1, 3, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 3 or 2, 2, 1. Looks like 1's ahead. We got another one for 2. 2, 1 and 2 are tied. Uh-oh, 2 just pulled ahead. Hold on to your butts. Ah, crap. Hold on to your butts. You asked a question earlier that I don't know if I answered. You said, is that frame by frame? Do you remember what this was referring to? Probably the animation I just showed, but all right. So it looks like illustration number 2 has won out as the one that most people want to see. Two. Elijah you just made two pull out ahead. Actually, if you guys will bear with me, I want to try something. Because there's like a little poll. Probably going to do two, but you guys are being such good sports. I just want to try something here. There's like a little widget. Aha, poll. Yeah, I'd have to set that up beforehand. It's going to take too long to set that up. We'll just go with two. It was, oh, so you were talking about, it was the cape animation, but you explained it. Thank you. Yeah, not frame by frame. Using the wave warp effect for anybody who wasn't there for that. Two's arms are interesting. So yeah, so that's going to be a little bit of a challenge. Okay, looks like we're going with two, right? Everybody good with that? Spore 3 didn't get very many votes. That's okay. Those of you who voted for 3, you know what? You guys, you and I, we're on the same page. But looks like 2 has 1 out. So if that's good with everybody, we're going to do 2. Okay. Let's get started. Okay, so now we're moving into the portion of the live stream that I had not pre-planned. This is just how I work. So I'm just gonna be going through kind of my general process for how I would create this character to be rigged in After Effects. So we're gonna create it in Illustrator, then we're gonna jump over to After Effects. I'm gonna show you how I rig it up. And then if we have time, what time is it? Shoot. Well, we've been live for about an hour and 15 minutes. So if we have time, we'll add some animation to it and I'll just kind of go through that process. So, boom. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ungroup this so I can grab these individual assets. And actually, like this torso shape is already pretty good. So right now, I'm just going to kind of modify it so it's not. So she's illustrated in this like little pose. Ooh, we got a little subscriber thing that just happened, but I didn't get to see because it was layered in the wrong order. So whoever just Payne Barona just subscribed. Don't know if you're watching, but if you are, thanks for subscribing. Getting the line art to move dynamically with the arms is what interests me. Are you talking about like these little sections right here? How to get that to work as you like animate the arm? Ungroup this head. Okay, so the first thing is I'm not going to be able to use this head. This head is just going to be a reference, right? Because there's just not enough detail here to work with. But luckily we have a lot of reference from the original project file that we can use. So this shape is going to be kind of my forearm shape because it looks like this is like kind of like a heavy sweater that kind of like tapers really sharply to the wrists. Okay, so Elijah says yes, exactly. Well, let me ask you this. What do you perceive as the issues, or what issues do you run into with having little line parts like this? Because the way that this is set up, it is kind of tricky, right? Especially since this line right here is mostly serving to separate the forearm from the upper arm in terms of this illustration. Rover, have you got an easy way of posing a character? You mean as you come up with an illustration, or after it's rigged? All right, so obviously we need to finish this leg. So the first thing I'm going to do is this leg kind of comes out, right? This lady's got some hips. And sometimes, because I don't like to try to get these 2 points exactly parallel with each other, I'll just draw a square, grab both of my, and erase them. So now I know that this line right here is perfectly straight across. And we're a little lopsided. So we're just gonna pull this out. Doesn't have to be perfect. Boom. There's the waist, there's the torso. I'm gonna pull a different head from this because that head just doesn't give me enough to work with. Here's what I'm gonna do. Ungroup this, pull this head. Ungroup this, delete that. We got this. We're gonna turn on the stroke, turn it to black. If you're wondering why I did that, it's because these freaking strokes all come out outline, and there's a reason why they do that. Why a lot of times you'll outline your strokes before you give it to somebody, because yeah, you don't want them messing with the strokes. But for animating in After Effects, it kind of makes it a pain. Rover, let me ask you, why are you wanting to pose your characters in the pose that you're going to animate them in, or do you mean just what is the pose that you should design the character in for rigging? I'm a little confused as to what your struggle is, so maybe you can help clarify for me. When using Limmer, it doesn't carry over those line art pieces. Only workaround I've used on a straight line art is using the create nulls from path and then parenting those nulls to the rig. Okay, well, we'll go through this, and I suspect that you'll kind of see how I do it, and it might provide some insight on this. So I think we'll address that issue. But thanks for the clarification. That helps me kind of know what to point out as I go through this. Yeah, that's good. I just need to do a better job of continuing to work as I answer questions. The problem with holding questions to the end, I definitely do take questions at the end, but the problem with that is that I get so many questions that, you know, I want to be able to address people's questions as I go along. So, but you know, you're right. I got to keep working. So I'm going to copy these glasses because she is wearing glasses, but I don't want to use these glasses because they are to a side. I can always animate these glasses to turn to the side, but sometimes I spend way too much time. Okay, let's go grab some eyes. For the eyes, I like these eyes. So I'm gonna grab these and this nose and this mouth. Okay. And of course, I think what I want to do is I'm gonna have to recreate this because these are outlined strokes, they're not going to be this right size when I create them. So I can use the pupil, turn off the fill here. Okay, make sure that stroke's the same size with that. I don't know if that stroke is correct. Bring this forward. I just turned off the scaling stroke so that when I scale this down, it keeps the stroke the same. Let's see, this hair. Hair is always a difficult one, right? So like, I'm gonna do the neck like this. So I'm gonna copy and paste this on this path. I'm gonna turn off the fill, so it's just the outline. And I'm gonna make sure that that outline is behind the thing. And then for this path, I'm gonna turn off the stroke. And it's just gonna be a white fill. Put this behind the body, because if you look at here, you know, the neck is kind of overlapping onto the torso, but I don't necessarily want the neck to be transparent to see through the neck. I want that fill to be there, so I'm putting a fill layer just behind the torso, and then the outline layer is above the torso but behind the head to kind of mimic this style. Let's do the ears next. Ears. Make sure that we are doing that. And ears need to be big enough to, I don't know, that might be too big, but group that, put it behind the head, duplicate it, reflect it, put it behind the head. And then we got to work on the hair, which hair is always hard. So she kind of has this like thing that goes on here. So yeah, that wasn't what I wanted. By the way, if you hold shift to delete one of these points, sometimes you can delete it without affecting the curvature of your path. So right here, I'm trying to mimic, I might need to come in a little bit. So Ninja Wookie, I usually use a set mat on the line at the armpit, for example, so I don't need to keep track of it. Yeah, that's definitely a way we can address that line issue. But again, we'll go over that when we get into After Effects, because that seems like a big question mark to a lot of you guys. Gosh, I keep trying to just grab one point, not all the points. All right, so I'm trying to mimic this little part right here, but from the front view. And then since we can't see the other side, I'm just gonna make something up that feels right, which is probably just gonna be similar to what we have on this side, except maybe little. I don't know. I don't really like how it's just split down the middle, so I'm gonna do that. And of course, this needs to be behind the glasses. Let's see if we can take a look at any of these other characters for inspiration on how to do the hair. Like that. Ooh, we could add a little strand. She got bangs. Kind of like the idea of adding that little strand. So I'm just gonna move this over for now, but I do want to add like a little strand here. What would you say your guys' skill level is with Illustrator? How familiar are you with Illustrator? Can you cruise through it, or are you kind of feeling like when you're in Illustrator, you're always looking on how to do things? I don't know why. There we go. Bring this up a little bit. You know what I'm going to do? When in doubt, simplify. Osmotion 7 out of 10. Bazoa Beginner 3 out of 10. Would you guys ever be interested in just Illustrator tutorials on the channel, or should I just leave that to other people? Curious. Okay, there's my head. It'll be enough for this animation, I think. Nose overlaps the glasses. Maybe not quite. Oh wait, my glasses got shifted. You want the nose to overlap the glasses right here. All right. So basically, we just need to create the feet because that's the last little. Let's see if there's any good examples. There's no good examples of the feet. We have these little guys. I think I'm just going to take these guys. Pretty simple. When doing the feet, I usually like to do a side view and then kind of a 3/4 view. That needs to be Okay, for the legs, we're going to do the legs in After Effects and the arms in After Effects. For hands, hands are hard, right? Hard with everything. We're going to not worry about the hands quite yet. Some of these hands are different, right? Like this hand is huge. This hand is totally different. I like this hand, but I think we'll make it smaller because it won't, you know, her hands don't look that big. All right, so let's talk about how we're gonna do the arms. First thing is, anytime you're rigging up arms, you just want to rig them just down to the side. And I like to create 3 circles that represent my arm and my arm length. This will be the wrist right here. So if typically the wrist is not going to be as thick as the rest of the body, and we're going to turn this wrist into that. Okay. We do want to make sure that all 3 of these are aligned, and then I'm going to create my bicep. Just gonna connect, and then my forearm. And of course, I want this to be kind of like kind of want to mimic. In fact, it looks like we should actually make this elbow slightly bigger. And we want to make this a little round. Okay, and then we know we got like a line right here, which I'll just do. I'm gonna copy this and copy that, turn off the fill. I'm just gonna cut this. Same thing here. So here's the thing I want to point out. Oops, I want to copy that. Then I want to point something out here because we've been talking about this. These lines on the arm have been a point of conversation that we. I have a couple of ways I'm going to attempt to solve this issue, but at this point in setting up the character, I'm not entirely sure which one of those ways is going to work. So I'm setting this up in Illustrator right now, kind of planning on using it, but you know, there's a few things I need to consider when setting this up. Turn off this fill. I'm not putting an outline on the outside of the arm because I don't anticipate ever needing that. It looks like the reason why I would need this stroke is really when the arm overlaps the torso. Okay. So I need to decide how I'm going to do that. And then I am going to just draw out the palm of the wrist, which I'm actually going to double click in here and just do it in here. And you know what I'm going to do here? Can you guys guess? I am going to steal these fingers and appropriate them for my hand. Now, before you look at that and go, that is a short little finger, first of all, I can shorten my hand. I think the hand's a little too long. But that was quite hilarious when I looked over at my screen capture and saw how short that looks. And probably a little wider. Just a tad. Then we're going to do that. Oops. Sorry, that was my wife peeking in to see if I was still live streaming. By the way, I'm glancing over at the chat every once in a while. I'm seeing you guys are all talking to each other, which I love. I like you guys exchanging ideas, bringing together the community. Okay, let me catch up on some of these. So Abu says, for things I know the most, I guess I'm a 6 out of 10, but the whole Illustrator, I'm noob. Yeah. AC says, yes, some Illustrator tutorials. AC, if you have any ideas for Illustrator tutorials, things that you struggle with, leave those ideas in the comment section, not in the chat, because the chat sometimes goes away when I post this up. Akira says, I take any tutorials I can get. Okay, well, you know, leave those ideas in the comment section. One of the hardest parts is just coming up with new ideas for tutorials. Have you ever animated in Blender by using the grease pencil? I have not, but I've wanted to take a look at that. It's just finding the time. Do you usually separate into layers at the end? Ninja Wookie, I'll go over that when we jump over to After Effects. FC, I don't know what you mean by daddy. That's kind of weird, but you do you. Osmotion, yeah, you could. That's true. That's true. You could select all the points around the elbow and scale them together. That's true. I don't love, well, I'll tell you why I don't like doing that. If I select all these points, and scale them. Well, actually it's not too bad. In fact, I kind of like that. Gives it a nice seamless thing. But now my circle is an oval and I don't want it to be an oval. So I'd have to scale it up and I can't really see. I want my joint to be a circle. It's not bad though. It's not bad. My freaking hand looks retarded. And it only has 3 fingers, so we're just gonna go with 3 fingers. I'll look at some of these other hand illustrations. They all kind of look weird. Some of them are like really round, you know? These are all really round. And then you got these like really pointy fingers. I guess we all have different finger shapes though, so that's not that big of a deal. I just want it to look like that. And obviously the other thing too is if this is the left arm of the character, this needs to be, oops. This needs to be reflected the other way. I guess that actually doesn't need to be that way. All right, well, I don't want to get too hung up on the hand other than I'm just gonna add a little thumb here. All right, that's good. I might spend more time on the hand later. All right, let me see. Let me catch up on some of these comments you guys have got going. Hello, any update on the rigging course? Sam Shapiro, yes, I do have updates on the rigging course. I don't know what updates you're looking for. If you're talking about launch date, if you've pre-ordered the character course, we're going to start trickling out lessons in mid-May. We're going to divide that course up into chapters, and then each chapter is going to have a couple lessons into it, and each chapter is going to focus on different topics. So that first chapter is going to come out sometime in the middle of May, and we'll trickle it out from there to all those people who have pre-ordered. If you don't pre-order, or if you haven't pre-ordered it, the full course will be out sometime in June. But for those who have gone ahead and taken the leap of faith, pre-ordered it, yeah, mid-May is when we'll start to get those. Osmotion, asking where everybody's from. Belgium. We got some people from Sacramento. Sam's from Sacramento. Nerdy Peach Mango from Florida. Akira is asking how I'm rotating the layers without the transform box, like this. If you hit R, you get this little tool here, and then you can click where you want it. You can click where you want the pivot point to be, and then you hit R again, and you can rotate it from that pivot point. So I could choose the pivot point way out here, right? It's like the equivalent of the anchor point in After Effects, except that the pivot point doesn't stay there. If you just go to the bounding box and rotate it, it will just rotate from the middle of that layer. A little tip for you. Yeah, I think my wife just popped in here to see if I was still live streaming. I think she's got dinner ready because I can smell it. It smells delicious. And she was wondering when I'm going to be done. But we still got quite a bit to do. We've been going for just under 2 hours now. I love it. Osmotion offering help. I love it. Have I done any pixel art animation? No, I haven't. I imagine if I were to ever do that, the way that I would just off the top of my head, I would probably just do it normally and then add like a mosaic filter over it. That's how I kind of cheat it. We got Ninja Wookie from Australia. Rover, message retracted. I really wish I knew what you said. Sam, have you tried the mosaic filter over it? I'm not sure if that's the best way to do it, but I know the guys from Cub Studio did an animation, and I think that's how they accomplished that. Go check out Cub Studio. I think it was them. They did this like little video game animation. What's your favorite cartoon? At the moment, Attack on Titan. Dude, first of all, I just want to say I'm loving seeing in the chat you guys chatting with each other and answering questions for each other. That's awesome. That's the kind of participation I live for, baby. Okay, so we're just about ready to bring this into After Effects. You'll notice that I don't have legs and I only have one arm, and that's the reason for that is because this arm is, I just need one because I'll just duplicate it for the other arm. So let's start bringing this over to After Effects. Man, I have the sun like beating on me, so I'm gonna just close this blinds real quick. Hey Siri, close the blinds. It is so hot in here. Can I turn on my fan, and does that bother you guys? My ceiling fan. I don't know if you guys will be able to hear that, but hopefully not, because I need to get some air circulating in here. I'm dying of heat. No, Ninja, I don't need to eat. I do not. Wow, my lighting has become much more dramatic. All right, so the way that I bring stuff over to After Effects is with Overlord. If you've ever joined me on a live stream before, you know I rant and rave about Overlord. It's this little guy right here. And I just select my shape and hit this button, and it pushes it to After Effects. But let me make sure I've got my project set up in After Effects before I push stuff over. We're gonna do a new project. And for this to work correctly, you want your After Effects composition to be set to the same resolution as your artboard. So I'm going to select this, I'm going to push it to After Effects. And then if I go over to After Effects, we have my little torso right here. Look at this little guy. It's right there, just as it was in Illustrator. I'm going to do the same thing with, I'm going to go back to Illustrator. Okay, so I'm just going to push everything to After Effects instead of hopping back and forth. But I just wanted to show you basically how Overlord works. So I'm going to push that. And then if I want to push a bunch of shapes together, okay, so how I'm going to do this, I'm going to push. So this is this shape, and then the outline is on a separate layer, but I want them to be on the same layer in After Effects. I don't know if that's how the final thing will be, because this might cause issues, but I'm going to just try it for now. And if I need to separate them, I'll separate them. I'm going to put the hand all on one layer. And then I'm going to grab my 3 circles, and these are all going to be on separate layers, all 3 joints. So I can activate, I can tell Overlord to put the shapes I've selected on separate layers by activating this little button right here. And then I'm going to push the back of the neck, and then the outline of the neck. And then I'm just going to put the whole face and head all on one layer. And okay, just checking. The chat is like somewhat behind, so when I say something, like if I ask you the fan, I'm just now seeing the responses come through. AC's asked what's for dinner. I think we're having chicken with this like creamy sauce. Akira, really grateful for this chat. I love it. So this is the kind of stuff I love, to jump on the live stream. You guys can answer each other's questions. You can ask me questions. We can just have a little conversation going on. This is something that you can't have in just like a tutorial that you just post. You can kind of like the comments can go back and forth. You can reply to people's comments, but I like the real-time nature of this. I need to look into AE UX. Is that kind of like Overlord, but for Figma? Because if so, I do really want to check that out. I'm talking about this comment here from Ninja Wookie. I've been pushing stuff from Figma over to After Effects using AE UX. If that is the case, so let me know if that's kind of the same thing as Overlord, but for Figma, because that's an awesome tool if it is. Okay. Did I push my foot? Okay, I got everything. All right, let's jump over to After Effects and start building this character rig. All right, usually this wouldn't take this long, but you know, I'm pausing in between things to like look at the chat and whatnot. Okay, I'm in After Effects. Let's change the background to white. And let's go through here and name our layers. Torso. This is the bicep. This is the forearm. This is the hand. This is shoulder circle joint. This is elbow. And this is wrist. This is neck. And this is let's do this. This is okay. So this is neck fill. And the neck fill needs to be behind the torso, but we're going to parent it to the neck outline, which is this one. And that needs to be above the torso. So now, if let's see if I go back to the composition. If I move, oops, that is a weird angle here. Okay. Now, if I move this, let's see, transparency. Okay. Now, because that backfill is parented to the neck, it'll work. All right. And I'm now realizing that my head layer needs to be separated. And I'll show you why. So I'm just going to delete that. And this is my shoe. Okay. The head layer needs to be separated because this back hair layer needs to be separate from the rest of it. Oops, I am over in Illustrator. Sorry, guys. I don't have my usual iPad to switch between, so I'm having to do it manually. So I've got the head layer here. I'm going to send that over as a layer, and then this hair in the back I'm going to send over as a separate layer so that I can put this one below the neck, and then, oops, didn't send my head layer over. I don't want the neck to come with it. There we go. And we're going to go to After Effects. Head. All right, there we go. Now the back hair is behind the neck, so it's a separate layer. Just name this hair back, and we'll parent it to the head, and then we'll parent the head to the neck outline, and we will adjust the anchor point of the neck to rotate from that point. We'll adjust the anchor point of the head to be right there. Okay, cool. And then the neck will be parented to the torso, which we will put right there. And we forgot the hip, so let's go back over to Illustrator. And let's send this shape over to After Effects. And the hip is going to be, we're going to put the here, rename it hip with 2 P's, and we'll parent the hip to the torso. So the torso is going to be my main layer that drives the motion. And then now for the arm, let's rig this puppy up. Okay, so I'm going to be using Limber to rig this up, and I'm going to use the rig and pose feature here, which you can't see. So let me set this up so you guys can see this. Give me 1 second. Ay, oops. I lost After Effects. That's not what we wanted. Let's do this. And we want it to capture this window. Okay. So I've got this little window here, and what I need to do is put all the relevant layers into here. Now, I could go in here and there's a little drop down menu of all my layers, and I can select them. You can't see the drop down menu because of the way that the screen capture software for streaming works. But there's a way I can do this so that everything's already preloaded, and it's just in the way that I select my layers. So I'm just going to solo all the layers that have to do with my arm, so that this is easy to follow. And where's the hand? We got the hand. Okay, got everything. The elbow, shoulder, wrist. We need the wrist. Okay, so the wrist actually needs to be below the hand. And we actually don't need the hand for this per se. So the way that you need to select this is, dang, I look real dramatic in this light. Okay, shoulder, elbow, wrist. So we're going we're going to start with the joints, shoulder, elbow, wrist. We're working our way down the arm, and then we need to select our bicep and our forearm. Now, the way that this works to get the rig and pose feature of Limber to work correctly, it all depends on the way in which you select your layers, not the order of the layers on the timeline. You need to select them in that order: shoulder, elbow, wrist, bicep art layer, forearm art layer. Okay, so to use the rig and pose, it's assuming you are constructing this limb around those 3 circles that represent your joints. And when I select my layers in that order, then I can go to the rig and pose, and everything is, all the right layers are loaded in here. So my shoulder layers in the hip and shoulder section, the upper art layer, which is this layer right here. In fact, I can make this big, just easy for you guys to see. So this bicep layer is loaded in, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Now when I hit OK, there's another little window that's popping up here that prompting me to name it. I'll just hit OK, and Limber works its magic. Now I have an arm layer that is working. Now there's a few little issues right here that I need to fix. This center circle, let's change the layer so you can see. So this circle is overlapping this artwork layer. So I think what I need to do is go into the contents, and I'm going to zoom in on my timeline so you guys can better see what I'm doing. And I'm going to go into the upper group, which represents the top half of my limb. Rigged upper bicep group, I have this, which is my outline, so I can actually rename that to the outline. And this is the fill. Okay. Let me see what happens if I just put this on top. Okay. So what I think is going on let's see if I just turn that off. What happens there? Nope, we definitely want the upper group to be below. Still got that circle. That's okay. So I have somebody calling. My buddy who I'm working on this project is calling me, but I'm just gonna text him back. Live streaming working. Maybe he'll jump in the chat. Okay. Let me catch up on the chat, yo. Catch up on the chat. Dang, you guys are going crazy. Ninja Wookie. I also just got auto crop. Yeah, that's a cool thing. I'm using Mobar here, which has an auto crop feature. Mobar is a really cool tool because it's like It's like 60 tools in one. It's really awesome. Link in the description if you want to check out more about Mobar. Body red with 5 puppet pins on the body layer. Paired to the 2 shoulders. Osmotion. You got a lot going on here, huh? Yeah, I gotta get this circle out of here on the upper arm. So, yeah, I think if I do that... Now, is there a circle? Nope. That circle, for whatever reason, is... tied to this... Oh. Haha. Got it. Okay. So if I turn that off, now, there we go. That way that circle's not overlapping that stroke. And the other thing is I need to go to the rigged forearm group. For some reason I have 2 different paths, so I can delete one of these. And I need to change this to a rounded path here. Okay. So there we go. Now, those of you in the chat that were talking about these lines, who was it? I don't know if it was you, Elijah, or if it was Ninja Wookie. Talking about how to approach these lines. Who was it that was saying that they put the lines on a separate layer and then did a path to Nulls or whatever? I'm interested to know because, you know, obviously here's a way that we can do it without having to, you know, parent Nulls. Now, here's the other thing. Well, that actually works pretty well. Then I can just scooch this on over. And then I think even if I use some of the other parameters, I can shorten the forearm. Kind kind of create an effect of foreshortening. So even that right there is kind of, you know, what we're seeing in the Illustrator example right here. Make this upper length way longer to match that. You know, if she's like, we want to match the proportions exactly. All right, let's move on to the legs, because I'm going to do something a little different with the legs. So I'm going to come over here to Limber, and I'm going to choose leg and new. And I've got a new little Limber leg layer here. And I'm going to solo this and solo the hips. And I'm going to bring the leg below the hips so I can see exactly. I want the middle of this hip joint to be right there. And I think that this hip is a little thick in my opinion, so I'm going to reduce the size of that hip till it lines up right here. That way, actually, I might even go a little bit thinner and then just move this over. That way when I bend, oops. That way when I bend, we get this nice curvature. I'm going to do a square end, and I'm going to increase the end. Let's just say I do 90 and 60, and halfway between 90 and 60 is 75. Good. Then I'm going to change the colors to black. And then I'm going to duplicate my layer, rename this to right leg. And I probably need to make these legs a little longer. And so play with the lengths. It's like 230, maybe 240. There's one feature I wish Limber had, and Steve, if you're watching, it'd be really nice if you had like a scale here, a scale parameter that would basically scale up the upper and lower length together without scaling up. I guess that kind of works, but it also scales up the thickness. And I wish there was a way to scale up the upper and lower length at the same rate instead of, because a lot of times my issue is I need my limb to be a certain length, but then I have to kind of go back and forth and figure out how long I need the upper and lower length to make it that length, if that makes sense. Osmotion, damn, that works really good. I'll have to give Limber a second chance. Yes, you shall give Limber a second chance. I demand it because it's a really awesome tool. Now, one way. Okay, so the other thing is I love about Limber is I have this and I've made adjustments to the length. I can just come over to Limber, hit copy, and then go to my other limb, my right leg, and hit paste. And paste that same length. And I think in our illustration, we have this. She's kind of like rotated the other way. Oh man. Okay. Well, shoot, guys, I've got to wrap this up, and we haven't even gotten to animating. That's my bad. Let's do another live stream, and I'll finish off the animation next week. We'll actually dig into this rig, and we'll add some animation to it. For those who are just Elijah, it was you that was talking about the line art dilemma. Elijah, did this provide you any extra insight doing it this way rather than kind of parenting those nulls? Well, let me just show one more way that I might approach it on these legs. So I want to be able to separate the legs, and so I need a stroke to do it. One way would be to do a separate stroke layer. Let me just deselect all my strokes. And so I'm going to do a white stroke with a 5. And actually, I need to be in After Effects, my After Effects scene. And I'm just going to solo this. And then, oops. No, I want to solo that. And then I want to draw a line here. Make that a round cap. And then I can come over to Limber, turn up the rotation on the start to 100, and then parent this line to the hip, this guy. So now when I move, that line should move with my thigh because it's parented to this controller, to the rotation of this controller. Okay, so there's that. And then what I can do, if I only want this line to show up when it's overlapping this, that's where I'll use a set matte effect on the line. We'll just call this pant line. And then I'll set the set matte to the left leg here. So it's set to the left leg. So now that line only shows up if my leg is overlapping that. Now, the obvious drawback to this is you get, you don't get that nice cap on the line, because it's just going to cut off at this angle, whatever angle I have this leg at, So that is kind of a drawback to doing it this way. But that's probably the most efficient way to do it if you want that line to only show up when the legs are overlapping. Hey, Rover, thanks for joining. I'm about to jump off myself, so thanks everybody for who's joined. Any last minute questions I can help answer for anybody? Ninja Wookie, yes, this will be posted later for everybody to enjoy. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We will be finishing up this on the next live stream. I'll add some animation, and I'll probably tweak a few things in between now and then we'll go over those changes, and then we'll add some animations, and I'll kind of show you how I approach the animation. Sorry we couldn't get to that in this video, because between pausing to look at chat and answer questions, it runs longer than I'd like, and I've got to jump off because I got to go eat some dinner. and then I gotta go work on my yard. Osmotion regularly. I think we're gonna be either doing Wednesday or Thursday evenings at the same time. We're starting at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So based on where you're at, you can kind of gauge what time that is. I've tried to do some early morning streams, but I think these evening streams have definitely turned out to have the most viewers who can make it. I know that's a little inconvenient for some of you over in Europe and the Asia part of the world because it's in the middle of the night for you. But the great thing is I'm posting these afterwards on my channel. If you ever need to find them, you can go to my channel, playlists, live streams, and they'll be there for you to watch afterwards at your earliest convenience. What's the name? I always get questions about this. What's the name of that plugin to the right of the preview window with all the shape tools? That's a little homegrown tool that I had somebody develop specifically for me. It's called Take Shape. I am debating on whether or not I release it wide scale to people or if I continue developing it and so that it's functional. Maybe in a future live stream we can dedicate some time and I can actually go through that tool and show you what it does. But yeah, I've sent it to some people, but I need people who want to give me feedback on the tool. So Ninja Wookie, we'll see you later. Thanks for joining. Thank you for your participation. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. Again, if you guys want to check out the character animation course, keyframeacademy.com/character-preorder, or for those of you who don't like to type out URLs, I've left the URL in the description. You can go check that out. And yeah. Yeah, Steve, if you try Googling Take Shape plugin, it's not going to come up with anything because it's my own little plugin that I made. If you want to look at more info, I do have a website set up for it. It's not a pretty website at this point, but it's you go to keyframeacademy.com/takeshape, and you can give me your email, and I give you updates about it. And maybe even if you reach out to me, I might be able to get you a copy of it. The problem with it right now is it's just not in a state where I'd want to like send it out widespread to people. So again, sorry that I wasn't able to. Dang, woo! I am real drama. Hey Siri, turn on the light. There we go. That looks cool. Okay, I'm gonna jump off. We'll see you guys next week, Wednesday or Thursday, depending on... Oh, and I may have another YouTube video, a tutorial coming out tomorrow, but this one's going to be more geared towards beginners, so I don't know. If you're into character animation, you're probably not the target demographic for that video. But if you want to support the channel and you want to leave a like on that video, helps me in the algorithm, helps get that video to more people who are beginners, who are just getting familiar with After Effects. Hit me up, go leave a like. Also, I just had a video pass 1 million views, and that's thanks to you guys. So I really appreciate your following the channel, subscribing, and commenting, and doing all that stuff. Awesome participation from everybody in the chat today. I'm actually going to probably go back and read the chat and make sure that I didn't miss any important questions, but it looks like some of the questions you guys took care of, so that's really awesome. Again, thanks for watching, and I really am jumping off this time, so we'll see you.